Regarding the origins of the living practice, it relates to what I learned at the ashram that is referred to as tapas, transformational heat. And what I learned from my mom regarding facing strong emotions rather than moving away from them. We can let ourselves honor our feelings rather than distracting from them or trying to figure them out with our mind or solve them or use a substance to numb out from them or avoid them. We can turn toward them and be willing to burn in them. Now, our wanter will have no interest in this. Our wanter will want to move away from the discomfort, distract, avoid, bring some comfort to it that won't really bring lasting relief because it will still be in there. Well, the true origins, I realized when I was learning about tapas at the ashram, was what I learned from my mom. In the experiences that I had with her, when I would have strong emotions, she would invite me to let them be felt and honor them. And sometimes she would make it very clear to me that it was the only way. Here's an example. In this example, I'm 7 years old. I'm coming home from elementary school class. And as I'm approaching my house, I have this feeling of dread in my stomach because I never knew what I was going to see or hear when I would get home. At this point in our journey, my mom had started dating this man. And prior to that, it had only been my mom and I and my little sister because my father left when I was a baby. And this man that was now sometimes with us in our house, he was very temperamental and could get really mean when he drank alcohol, which was really hard to understand, very confusing. My mom never drank alcohol, and so this was very intense for us. And I could see that it was hard on my mom and hard on my little sister and hard on me. And I was confused as to why he would be a part of our lives. And of course, now I could understand that her being a single mom, and there aren't that many opportunities for women without college degrees in a very small town, and she was 19 when she had me, so she was very young. Well, as I approached the house that day that I was referring to, I walked in and I could see she had been crying, and she had a scarf over her forehead in an unusual way that she usually didn't wear scarves. And so I climbed up into her lap and I moved the scarf out of the way to see what was going on. And there was an indentation in her forehead that was the exact shape of the pinky ring that this man wore on his right hand. As soon as I saw this wound in her head, I instantly was in primal rage. I jumped off her lap, ran into my bedroom. I could hear her chasing after me. I grabbed my baseball bat and I tried to move away from her because she was trying to catch me and go get him and hurt him for hurting her. And she was faster than me, and she grabbed hold of me, and she took the bat out of my hand, and she sat down, and she held me so tight, didn't allow me to take action on this rage. And as she held me tightly, she said, "Mitch, if you do this, you're going to be doing exactly what he just did to me." And she held me tightly, and I was so mad, and I was pushing and trying to get away. And no matter how hard I tried, she held me there. And I just had to face it and experience it. And I did not want to. My wanter wanted to go get him and prevent him from ever hurting her ever again. And she held me in her lap so tightly, and I was just burning in it, this rage throughout my whole body. My fists were clenched and my jaw was tight, and I was trying to get away and go get him. And as she continued to hold on to me, she said to me, "Mitch, from the moment you came into my life, I have experienced your gentleness, your playfulness, your kindness, your sweetness, your tenderness. I know this is hard for you, and you want to help me. But I love you too much to let you do something that would pull you away from your pure heart." It was very intense. And I could feel her strength as she held me and taught me how to face our feelings rather than taking action on them. How to burn in the intensity of the emotion without distracting from it, without moving away from it, without trying to fix it or solve it or bring temporary comfort to it. Little by little, the feeling became less and less. And I could feel how much she loved me. And the feeling became less and less. And then eventually was released. And I hugged her and thanked her and honored her. And when I reflect on the origins of the living practice, it really began with her ways of teaching me how to face emotions rather than avoiding them. And the first person that I ever sat with all those years ago who called me that day on the phone when I was involved with a painting that was arriving that I call Heart of Being. The phone rang, I answered it, and she said, "Mitch, I had a vision just now during my meditation. And in this vision, I was sitting with you, and you were teaching me spiritual practices and telling me stories, and we were chanting together. Would that be a possibility?" "Yes, come on over." In our flow together, there was a point where she was having very strong feelings, and I invited her to tell me all about it. What happened? Tell me more, giving her a chance to express to me everything that was bothering her and creating this disturbance. It's so essential that we let the energies be honored when we're having these strong feelings. We need to let them be properly honored and heard and shared. And then I invited her to turn toward where she was feeling this, and she was feeling it in her gut. And I slowly offered her this way that had become clear to me that I had always just referred to as burning in it. When I would have these feelings, I just referred to it as, I need to burn in this. And so I just invited her to let herself feel this. And as she was feeling it, I then shared with her, okay, now that you're really letting yourself feel this fully and not moving away from it, we're not going to try to fix it or solve it or change it. Simply by letting yourself fully experience this. This is a wonderful way to demonstrate to yourself that you do have the capacity to feel your feelings. You don't have to move away from them or numb out from them or distract from them. And as this feeling slowly released and released and released, and then was uncontracted, and she opened her eyes, and she was a veteran of many spiritual lineages. And with great wonder, she asked me, what is the name of this practice? Well, as soon as she asked me, I knew there was no name. I just always referred to it as burning in it. It was just a moment of wonder, and what came tumbling out of me in reply was the living practice, as if it was already a known name for it. It named itself in that moment. So from that day on, it has evermore been revealed to me why it would refer to itself as the living practice. It works much better if it's a part of our life and if it's a living practice, if we're in it very regularly, if it's an alive practice, if it has become part of our life. It is a way of demonstrating to ourselves that we don't have to avoid strong feelings. We can let them be directly experienced in this beautiful, natural way that called itself the living practice. We can let ourselves feel our feelings, honor our feelings, allow them to be directly experienced without getting captured in them or overwhelmed by them or lost in them. Because once we're really letting ourselves feel the feeling where we're feeling it in our body, then we be aware of the awareness. It's a funny way to say it. But we become aware of the awareness of the feeling. And we realize the feeling isn't all that we are. It doesn't define us in totality. And as the feeling uncontracts itself on its own, however long it takes, we rest back in the awareness and let it be directly experienced. And it will release itself. We can't bring any agenda to that. And when it releases, there is such liberation because we've demonstrated that we can feel our feelings, and those feelings are actually a portal into a deeper realization that we are an absolute eternal presence that isn't in any way affected by these flows of emotion that happen in our human experience. We can let ourselves be available to this practice and let it be a living practice.